Linley Players, who own the building, been in existence since 1946. I've been a member of the group since 1967, and from the time I joined it until the late 70s, the company had an ambition to have their own theatre, because we were performing in church halls and all the difficulties associated with that. And so we started a building fund in the 70s, and we're looking at various buildings as they came up, and we never ever considered this place. We didn't think it was ever likely to come on the market, and we didn't think it would probably be suitable if it did. In 1979, the Congregational Church who were in here decided to leave the building because their elderly congregation were struggling with the stairs, and they moved to a flat hall behind us here, and so decided to sell the church.
This building that we're in now, which was a church, became available, and at that point they looked at it and they thought, well, this is possible to adapt it, and that's what they did. So it took about 2 or 3 years to get to a point when you could put plays on, but they still really wanted to increase the size of the theatre to cater for workshops, to cater for costumes and for more rehearsal space. We
bought it in 1980. Then we spent 2 years tearing it apart, basically, ripping out the inside and rebuilding, because it was just a flat full church. It had terrific advantages because it had the 3 floors, so we had ability to change downstairs into a clubroom. But we worked at weekends and evenings for 2 years, the gang. We were lucky enough to have a couple of members who were very skilled. We had a surveyor, we had people who could do carpentry, electrics, etc. And we did the entire project ourselves, apart from the central heating of the roof, which we paid professionals to come in and do. Otherwise, we did the whole thing ourselves. So that took us to 82. In 1982, we opened the theatre with a performance of Voyage Around My Father by John Mortimer. He came down to the opening. I directed that play, and we started performing regularly in here from then on.
Well, the community was very important. I mean, obviously you get a hard core of Linley members that drove this through, and there were other members perhaps who help out from time to time, but it wouldn't have happened without the community of Whitstable itself, the businesses and other people giving their services free, maybe structural engineers or people giving professional services for nothing. So it depended on that. It wouldn't have happened without that. And a good deal of money was raised through all manner, I mean, through selling tickets for plays, but also doing fetes and getting sponsorship for various elements of it. I mean, one feature was the seats we have here. They were sponsored by various people. You can see the names on the back. So, I mean, all these, it was really probably minor amounts of money, but really, when you put it together, we were able to sort of come up with this and build it and make it a reality.
We did all the usual things. We did the jumble sales and that, but we tried to think as many different projects as possible. Some of them were big fundraisers. We had a big raffle where we had boats and things, so that raised a lot of money. We had this extraordinary thing called a knit-in, which was one of the big fundraisers, where we got groups from the local women's institutes and everybody to come and knit, and the winner was the group that could knit the longest piece of knitting during this period, and they all got sponsors, and that raised something like £3,000, which at that time was a lot of money.
I'm Pat Wilkinson, and for my sins, or for my blessings, whichever way you like to take it, I'm wardrobe mistress here. I'm the keeper of the costumes, which sounds grand, but means I spend a lot of time mending zips and turning up hems and ironing, and sometimes even washing them. Anything that goes next to anybody's skin gets washed. Otherwise, they just go to the dry cleaners. Mostly because the costumes are made of a mixture of curtaining. Modern fabrics are too light for period costumes generally. We find that curtaining gives the right sort of weight, and so I haunt charity shops to buy second-hand bedspreads or curtains or what have you. Let's start with the dames, shall we? These, of course, are made for men. Whoops! Are made for men primarily. You can see by this, you might not realise, but it takes a very, very large woman to be bigger than a man. So, of course, they are enormous, but they look very effective on the stage. And we have a wonderful seamstress who is professionally trained and makes them for us. A lot of the costumes I've made, I started to count them up once, but I got bored at about 100, so I don't know how many altogether. If we're doing Cinderella, this is the sort of thing that Prince Charming would wear, restoration, and these, they're very tatty, but they were made professionally for two of the crazy gang, Jewel and Morris. You're probably too young to remember them, but you can see they were very tiny gentlemen, as a lot of actors are when you see them in real life. And, but you can see how beautifully made they once were, but they have, of course, seen better days, rather like me. I joined to act. I've been acting in an amateur way since I was about 14, which was a few years ago now, a few decades ago now. And when my husband's firm moved to Whitstable, and I joined the Linley Players and started off again. And then I got to a stage in my 60s where learning lines became really hard, and I couldn't bear the thought of being on stage not knowing what my next line was, or standing in the wings thinking, what's the name of this play again? And I was lucky, because then we'd acquired this, what was an old chapel church, and we were converting it into our theatre, and they needed somebody to look after wardrobe, keep it repaired, zips go, hems fall down, things like that happen. And it was my suggestion, which I'm very proud of, to hire costumes to people, not necessarily actors, people that go to murder mystery weekends and have themed weddings and things like that. And it just took off, word of mouth. We never sort of widely advertised it, but one person told another. We don't charge a lot, and we do let people keep them quite a long time, which professional costumiers wouldn't do. And I was lucky to, I sort of let it be known that I had made a few costumes in my time, and they offered me the chance to do this. And so it means that I can still come down and mix with people I love, doing things that I love and that I know about. And I count myself very fortunate. They count themselves as fortunate to have me, so it's a happy situation all round. It is a fact, a sad fact, that no woman who comes to hire will admit to being more than a size 14. But I have an eye for people's sizes. And I'm saying, size 14, that's fine. And mentally I'm thinking, yeah, in a pig's ear. So I'm very tactful. I sometimes have to run the tape over them. Other times I produce a size 18 and they settle into it quite happily. As long as the dreaded word 18 or outsize isn't mentioned, it's okay. Generally, men know their collar size, which is not much good, really. A 15.5 neck doesn't really tell you when the person's got arms like an orangutan, or they're over 7 foot high. So I can never understand men's sizes. I love it. I love what I do, and I should do it all the time I can manage 2 flights of stairs, which at one time I used to run up quite gracefully, and now I sort of plod or do this sort of aged toddle. Which will slow down altogether at some point, and then I shall be seen here no more. Either that or a little cobwebby bundle will be found under the costumes, and they'll say, oh, that's where Pat Wilkinson went. And that was me, Pat Wilkinson of Tankerton, and a Linley player for many years now.
First time I came to the Linleys was, I think it was 85. So I wasn't here when it was converted, but what I saw was this place was really almost brand new. And I came in with a different group. I came in with the University Players, and we did a play here because other groups hire this place out. And I thought then, well, this is a great venue, because I'm used to, a lot of amateur actors, we're used to working in all sorts of places. But if you've got a place which is a real theatre, as it were, with all the facilities, it was great. So I joined not long after that, and I think the first thing I did was, I think it was in '86, Contraband. And from then on, that was it. I was hooked really on you know, this place as a venue, because there's really, we can do most things here now, and we've managed to keep up with all the technical innovations as far as lighting and sound, computerization, all that sort of thing. So it's just given us, you know, really a great interest, everybody, and it's a good social atmosphere as well. If we hire it out to other groups and they come in here, then they're amazed by the facilities. But not just other groups. I mean, we've had people like Harry Hill and Paul Merton and others, and they always say what a great atmosphere, not just to you know, to come into the auditorium, but actually to perform in there.
Coming into the building the first time and standing in the I'd actually been in this church previously when it was a church, when a friend of mine got married here and I was his best man, so I had previous experience of the church. But when I stood in there and thought about the qualities of it changing into a theatre, that was a very exciting time. And it was, the conversion work was fun. I mean, it was jolly hard work, but the sense of coming together to do such a big project, and it was a big project for us, and achieving it, we had a lot of satisfaction. But since then, I've been involved. I've been chairman, I've been artistic director, which my great love is I direct. So I've been directing plays here since 1980, and I direct about every year, and that is the greatest pleasure I have, directing plays here. And the fellowship of all the people who work here, because they all come from different backgrounds, and the common interest is that they love the theatre, and that's great fun to meet all these different people and work together on plays. And
my favourite part, I think, I played Sheriff of Nottingham, which I really enjoyed, because that was such an evil character, one of the most evil sort of baddies you get in pantomime. So I mean, I really enjoyed that. But I've played other plays where there's a small cast. I think one of the main ones which stands out, Death in the Maiden, which is a sort of a three-hander, and it's the only time I've been in a theatre where I've performed, and there was total silence because of the tension that was built. It was such a great play. I mean, in terms of the writing. And you could lose yourself, and it was just total silence, and that's very unusual. And I think so that was probably a moment which probably stands out. But I mean, I've probably been in, I don't know, in this time, I don't know, 70 plays or more, I suppose. So they all sort of, sometimes you forget that you've been in things, to be honest, until someone shows you a photograph. You think, oh, that was me all those years ago.
When people come to Whitstable, they stay. I came here from London as a GP, and then I thought, what a hick town I'm coming to here. I didn't know that I was making the right decision, but I came because the practice was such a good practice. But then you come to Whitstable and you fall in love with it, and people stay in Whitstable for years, so you do get that sense of community here.
I have just loved living here. I didn't want to move here. I belonged to an amateur dramatic society, and I was very fond of the people in it and the things that we did, but oh my, I'm so glad we moved here now. I just love Whitstable. I really do. It has a lot to offer.